Alright, let's dive into something that's been on my mind lately. The rise of sports comedies and why they're hitting differently right now. If you've seen The Hawk with Will Ferrell, you know what I'm talking about. That perfect blend of chaotic humor and midlife crisis energy. But here's the thing. The Hawk isn't just a one-off. It's part of a bigger trend. Personally, I think what makes this genre so fascinating is how it taps into something universal. That awkward, often hilarious struggle of trying to hold on to glory days that are long gone. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, but you can't look away because, deep down, you kind of get it. Take Coach, for example. This 90s sitcom is basically the granddaddy of sports comedies, and it still holds up. Craig T. Nelson as Hayden Fox? Chef Esquisse. What many people don't realize is how ahead of its time this show was in balancing sports and personal life. It wasn't just about the football. It was about a guy in his middle age trying to keep it together. If you take a step back and think about it, that's a pretty relatable theme, even if the jokes are a bit dated. What this really suggests is that sports comedies have always been about more than just the game. They're about the human condition, but with more locker room humor. Now let's talk Eastbound and Down. Danny McBride as Kenny Powers? Iconic. What makes this show stand out is how unapologetically flawed Kenny is. He's not a hero, he's a mess. But that's what makes it funny. And kind of sad. In my opinion, this show nails the redemption arc without ever letting Kenny off the hook for being a jerk. And the fact that Will Ferrell shows up as Ashley Schaefer? Chef's kiss again. It's like these shows are all part of the same universe, connected by this shared DNA of masculine mediocrity. Then there's The League, which takes a different approach. It's not about athletes. It's about the fans. And let me tell you, as someone who's been in a fantasy football league, this show gets it right. The way it starts grounded and then spirals into absurdity, that's exactly how these leagues feel in real life. One thing that immediately stands out is the chemistry between the cast. Nick Kroll, Paul Scheer, Jason Mantzoukas, they're like a comedy dream team. What this really suggests is that sports comedies don't need athletes to be funny. They just need people who take sports way too seriously. Now, vice principals might seem like an outlier here, but stay with me. It's not about sports, but it's about two grown men acting like children, which is kind of the same energy. Danny McBride and Walton Goggins? Pure gold. What makes this really interesting is how the show manages to be both hilarious and kind of dark. It's like they took the rivalry from Eastbound and Down and cranked it up to 11. From my perspective, this show proves that the formula works even when you strip away the sports. It's all about the characters and their ridiculousness. Brockmire is where things get a little more emotional. Hank Azaria as a self-destructive baseball announcer? It's funny, but it's also kind of heartbreaking. What many people don't realize is how much this show is about recovery and redemption. It's not just gags. It's a story about a guy trying to piece his life back together. A detail I find fascinating is how it balances the humor with the heavier stuff. It's like they're saying, yeah, life's a mess, but you can still laugh about it. And then there's Cobra Kai, which is technically a drama, but has this self-aware humor that's impossible to ignore. Johnny Lawrence trying to reclaim his glory days? Sound familiar? What this really suggests is that the midlife crisis theme is universal, whether you're a golfer, a karate guy, or just a regular schmo. The martial arts action is great, but it's the comedy that keeps me coming back. William Zabka's performance? Underrated. He's funny, but he's also got this vulnerability that makes you root for him. Running Point is another one that flips the script by focusing on the owners instead of the players. Kate Hudson as Isla Gordon? She's fantastic. What makes this show interesting is how it mixes family drama with sports chaos. It's like Succession, but with more basketball. Personally, I think this show doesn't get enough credit for how smart it is. It's not just about the laughs. It's about the power dynamics and the messiness of it all. Now, Stick is the show I'd recommend if you want something with a bit more heart. Owen Wilson as Price Cahill? He's got this charm that makes you root for him, even when he's making terrible decisions. What many people don't realize is how much this show leans into the emotional side of things. It's not just about the golf. It's about second chances and what it means to try again. If you take a step back and think about it, that's a pretty powerful message. Finally, Chad Powers and the Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins are two shows that take the sports comedy formula in completely different directions. Glenn Powell's charm in Chad Powers is undeniable, but it's the absurdity that makes it work. And Tracy Morgan in Reggie Dinkins? He's in his element. What this really suggests is that there's room for all kinds of sports comedies, from the wacky to the heartfelt. They're all connected by this shared love of laughing at ourselves and our failures. So what's the takeaway here? Sports comedies aren't just about sports. They're about us. They're about the absurdity of trying to hold onto something that's already gone, and the humor that comes from that struggle. Personally, I think that's why they're so popular right now. We're all kind of in our own versions of a midlife crisis, and these shows remind us to laugh about it. What do you think? Are sports comedies just funny? Or is there something deeper going on? Let me know in the comments.